Hi everyone, welcome to Casual Watch Talk Sunday Social. Hope you're all having a good Sunday. Well, should we kick it off with a wristwatch check? Steve, you're in the hot seat. You're in the bottom corner. What are you wearing?
Putting me on the spot.
Go.
Okay. Yeah, I'm wearing. Let's see if I got it on here right. It's the Zodiac vintage Valjoux 7734 chronograph. Actually,
nice.
I had this for a while, but I just got a new crystal put on it, and yeah, it finally looks decent enough to wear on the wrist. So that's what I have on today.
Show it again. Show it. I don't think we got a good.
Yeah. Here we go.
It was a tease then.
Yeah, sorry about that.
Oh yeah, okay.
Yeah, so it's kind of multicolored, like kind of a gray and black and red dial and orange accents, and
that's the strap that came with it originally.
It is, believe it or not. It's a Zodiac bracelet. So yeah, I think it's I don't know. I like kind of funky 1970s stuff. So this is
lovely.
Yeah, I really like that.
Really nice. Really nice.
Nice.
Colby, you're up next. What are you wearing?
Well, it's football Sunday and the Chiefs are playing. So I have my Tudor Black Bay 41 red bezel Metis movement.
Nice.
Very nice.
Burgundy bezel.
Right. Yes.
Yeah.
Thomas, what are you wearing?
That's on Mark. I'm wearing a Panerai.
Oh, nice.
The Stingray strap, yeah.
Nice.
Titanium Panerai 352.
Yeah. God, that's really cool. I've had those Stingray straps. You could like file your nails on them. They're a lot harder, aren't they? They're like armor.
What are you wearing then, Sam?
I am wearing my Bremon. Bremon. Because I've been selling a lot of watches, so we'll get back to that. I'm still actually holding out for the integrated rubber strap.
Do you think Bremon will come out with... Oh, you muted yourself.
I know.
Do you think Bremon will come out with much this year, Watches and Wonders? They've already done a pink dial-like one. What was it? The Terranova, haven't they? They're going the pink club.
Yeah. I don't know. I don't know. I don't know that I'm that excited about anything that they've brought out recently. Like the new version of this is... it's not something that I would save to buy. It's like very. I mean, some people argue that this is like a generic shape, but at least it's their like triple case. It's got a lot of their original DNA in it.
Yeah,
Sam. The more I see that one, the more I like it.
Yeah,
I think part of it is a color combination. I really like that kind of Kelly green and navy bezel. I just think it just looks really sharp.
It does. The blue dial, the blue, and then the orange for the GMT. The blue is a real matte, like deep blue, contrasted with the green. It's just one of those color combinations that you wouldn't. If somebody said on paper, "Oh, it's like lime green with like navy blue," you'd be like, okay. But it does work. I mean, there's a lot. I think because there's a lot of flawed things with it that I'm kind of attracted to it because it's not perfect, which I think is what put me off Grand Seiko. Like, look at that bracelet; it's so chunky. It's almost like
no taper, right?
Yeah, it's almost like that Vacheron, or it's like integrated. It's so thick; it doesn't taper whatsoever, and then the clasp is like just the chunkiest thing going. Anyway. Awesome. Well, this week's episode, we're going to talk all about buying, selling watches, some tips for buying and selling watches, and then maybe we'll get into once they're sold, how we package them, how we send them off, how we handle any issues. So it should be a fun episode, but definitely keep your comments coming because I think all of us have at least sold and we've definitely bought online, but all of us have at least sold on eBay. But we're going to talk about some other methods as well as we go through this. So let's kick it off with the actual. Should we kick it off with the buying first, and then we'll go into the selling, and then we'll go into the sending it off, the life cycle. So I tell you what, let's start off with the various ways of buying. And
just let me kick it off with we've got 5 new members: Thelonious Monk, Crivier Lover, Lamine Lacab, and Dawn Hunter and Patel Philippe.
Oh, thank
So,
you. That's your work.
So got some new people joining the club. So
Oh, excellent.
Nice.
Yeah, I've been doing. I've been sending. Somebody's commented that they went back and watched the videos that I've put on members only. So a big thank you to that.
yeah,
If anybody else
yeah.
wants to join, only $1.99 a month. What's better use? Less than a Starbucks, as they say.
Exactly.
One, and I promise if we get I promise I'll start doing just the short members only videos again. But I've set a lot of the back catalogue, the ones that not really some of them controversial perhaps, but I've set some of them like my homage video that got a lot of traction. I've set that as members only, so it's not to upset the greater good. But I'll start doing some members only videos for sure. So yeah, please become a member, help support the channel. And yeah, thanks for that, Thomas. Okay, well, let's kick it off with Russell. Hey, Russell, if you want to join, always welcome. Russell's been doing a good job on TikTok. I think he's TikTok's
out.
Yeah, he's done it almost every day this
really
week.
Wow.
Yeah, it's so funny. He does a good job. I send him a donut or a roti, a bit weird. So I always send him a donut. Awesome. Well, okay. Well, let's kick it off with. I'm going to kick it off with something that I've never bought a watch off, which is forums. So I know, Stephen, you've definitely bought off forums. Colby, you have. Thomas, have you ever bought off a forum?
Never. No, I've never bought off forums. I've never bought off Facebook. Yeah. I've never bought off Marketplace. I've never bought of any sort of online platform like that. So no.
Okay. Well, I mean, Steve, do you want to kick us off, and then Colby definitely add into this about buying on forums, because I think it's like the most scariest, isn't it? I think for most new collectors.
Yeah.
So for me, I guess I think the first watch forum I started on was Watch You Seek, and I've been a member of Watch You Seek for, around 15 years now. And I mainly started going there just to learn, and ask questions, just like everyone else who's new in the watching, collecting game. And I think it's a great way to get started. Go on there with that expectation of trying to learn and ask questions, and don't be afraid to make mistakes. And I think once I started getting more comfortable, then I started buying and selling on there. And, I think the great thing about watch forums is that it's a dedicated place for hobbyists, and there's a really good job of self-policing that happens there. So, there's always a chance you can get scammed, right? And this could happen on eBay, it could happen on, Reddit, or it could happen on any number of places. But I found for the most part, the people who are there are for the most part very like-minded, and they have similar expectations, and the style is very consistent. So I find it to be a very good place for some things. It's not good for everything, but it's definitely a good place to start. So I really like Watch You Seek and Reddit. I previously mentioned I like Reddit a lot as well. I've been using Reddit more and more over the past few years, and there's many others. Todd and I are both longtime members of the Seiko Citizen Watch Forum. That's another great one, especially if you're into vintage and citizens.
Mm-hmm. So, are there any do's and don'ts on forums? You would say, Steve? Is there any?
Well, yeah. I mean, I think a do is obviously trying to show that you're a respected member of the group, and that you pay attention to the rules. And that you are, trying to show that you're a valued member. I think that's first and foremost the most critical thing. And a lot of these forums operate under the expectation that, and I think a really big thing is like not sending payments, friends and family only. That's always a big red flag. And trying to be very respectful of that, certain bumping limits as well, of like, how often you bump your thread up to the top if you're trying to sell something. Again, really just trying to be a respected member, and not trying to go against what others are doing on the forum as well. So sometimes people, will respond to your for sale ad, and other times they will not. And I think patience is a really big part of it as well, especially when you're selling. Is that sometimes it takes a while to sell something, and just trying to be respectful of that, and acknowledge that everyone else is in the same boat, and not trying to be annoying to other members. I think that's a big part of it.
Yeah, good one. Colby, you've bought off forums, have you?
Yeah, most of the places that I do my buying and selling are Facebook watch groups. I would never ever buy off Reddit or Watch You Seek, and I know that some people have had good experiences with that, but for me, I would never buy from a group that didn't have some kind of formal protection for buyers in place. So sometimes for Facebook groups that they do enforce buyer protections, and they require you to get references and vouches. And if somebody vouches for you, that means that he's willing to back the deal with his own money if something goes wrong, and that then is enforced by the moderators. So there are ways, besides kind of like an escrow account with Chrono24, there are some really good ways to get buyer protections from some of those Facebook groups. So yeah, that'd be something that I would recommend, but just I personally wouldn't feel comfortable buying and selling on Reddit, because to me it's kind of like the Wild West, and there's just no regulations. There's no recourse if you do get scammed.
Yeah, we've got Boracic Time saying it depends on the forum. Some are very good and selling can be problematic at time.
I mean, Steve, have you ever been burned on one? I mean, you don't have to name it.
Luckily, I have not. And Watch You Seek definitely has a feedback forum, and that's always something I pay attention to. I think it does depend on the person. Some people, really pay attention a lot to sales feedback. Other people do not. Reddit also does have a watch sales feedback forum, but at the same time, it's not perfect, right? People's accounts can get hacked, or you can always get scammed, even with the best expectations, and no matter how careful you are. So, I think there is a balance there, right, in terms of like risk. I think risk mitigation is a big part of this, right? How much risk are you willing to accept? Obviously, a place like Chrono24 or eBay, the buyer protections are typically much stronger, but sometimes you have to accept the fact that there are fees involved with the buying and selling in order to offset that. And so it really depends. Are you okay with potentially paying 10 or 15 or 20% more in order to have those additional buyer or seller protections there? And I think for if you're a newbie, I would say you should consider that. And I think once you start feeling more comfortable, then maybe you might be more open to a bit more risk. But risk is always something that's involved whenever you're buying and selling things that have a high dollar value, right? I mean, there's always a chance that someone out there is going to try and scam you. So unfortunately, that's just kind of the nature of the hobby that we're in.
Yeah. I was just going to say, Fizz Watcher on his enthusiast group said he says he's bought off a Facebook Marketplace and had watch posted to me. Have you ever met person to person after you've bought off a forum or Facebook? Have you ever met up with the person and or invited them around to your house? Or
I wouldn't invite them to my house if I didn't know them, but absolutely I've met someone, and I like to do it at kind of a more neutral site. Coffee shops tend to be a really popular spot for that. So yeah, I would absolutely meet someone at a coffee shop. Again, it's a risk thing, right? So
yeah,
if it's not something you feel comfortable with, you shouldn't do it.
Yeah.
So Colby, I don't understand how Facebook does protection.
No, it's not Facebook. It's the administrators of the group.
Right. Okay.
So there are some watch groups, and some even that include professional dealers, where the enforcement is so professional and so serious that I have a very high degree of certainty that there are not going to be any scams.
So they don't act as a go-between then. It's not like they're an intermediary.
Right. And the way that it generally works is you'll, especially at the beginning, you'll be asked to pay first, and then the seller will ship to you, and you'll get a reference check on the seller. And usually what you're really looking for is vouchers. That is, people who say, if something goes wrong, I'll back this transaction with my own money. That then in some Facebook groups is strictly enforced by administrators. Otherwise they'll face like banning from the group. And some of these people are professional dealers, so they would never risk that.
Oh, is that right? So people would pony up the cash if like co-sign on the deal.
That's right.
What's in it for them though? Just
It's
because they want to do it for them. Yeah.
Yeah.
Well. Okay. Wow. See, I'm learning something here. This is let's go through some of the chats. So I have got a question. This is not to do with sales, but Cliff actually emailed me directly, and I didn't know the answer to this. Has anybody heard of Brellam watches? Cliff asked me on email. Have you heard of them, Steve? This is a brand new one on me.
I've heard of them, but I have no personal experience with them.
Yeah, no, Cliff, I might have to ask the other members of the groups as well. I mean, Mido, I think we're all fans here, aren't we?
Yeah, we like Mido. I mean, Mark's got a couple of Midos, hasn't he? And he's a big fan of those. Yeah.
Yeah, looks like Cliff's been having a hell of a time with a Doxer that he bought directly from Doxer. Like that, yeah, unfortunately. Okay, yeah, sorry, Cliff, we didn't have it in depth. Like, I think panel same as me. We've heard of Brellam, but I'm not entirely sure about exactly what it is. So Robert Coleman said, wouldn't it be great if there was a brick and mortar store you could buy and sell vintage Seiko?
Yeah, absolutely. But there'd have to be loads of them because there's so many people that buy Seikos everywhere. It'd have to be like a 7-Eleven, a local Seiko store in every town.
Yeah, it would be interesting, wouldn't it? I sold some Lego the other day at a third-party Lego store, or traded it in. My wife's really into Lego sets, but we got a bit carried away. So I said to her, "Do you want to buy another one? Do you want to trade some of these in?" And it was okay. We traded something.
So Sam, I have a comment just going back to Brellam for a moment, because I think to me this is the most important thing about buying. Buy what you love. Yeah. It really doesn't matter what anyone else thinks.
Absolutely.
If there's a watch that you really like a lot and the design resonates with you, or the story of the designer, or whatever the factor may be, most important thing is buy what you love. You should never buy, what is just trendy because you see other people wearing it. Like for me, I love vintage chronographs. So I own, 30 vintage chronographs. And I know that Seiko Todd is the same way. He loves vintage Seikos. Find the stuff that you like, find the stuff that resonates for you. And then that way, like, if you only buy what you like, then, there's less of a chance you're going to sell it later on. I really think at the end of the day, that's the most important factor.
I couldn't agree more with you, Steve. Yeah, buy what you love and love what you buy. And it's just find your niche. And it'll take time because it doesn't happen automatically in this hobby. You make mistakes, and you follow the herd to start off with, and you'll buy a few things that you'll end up selling, but eventually you'll find your niche, and buy what you love. Exactly. Well said.
Go through, so Clicky Bezel says he's agreed with Robert, but Chris, if anybody's not checked out Clicky Bezel channel, he's a professional photographer. He's awesome. He actually used to work at Bob's Watches, and he taught me a lot about. That's why my camera work is at least half decent now. Was thanks to Chris. So either check out his channel, Chris. If you want to join the live now, just message me on Instagram. But thanks for joining. Let's see what else we've got. Dave Remus says, that he's had great experiences on Reddit. I only buy from members with plenty of verified transactions. Is that same as you, Steve? Is that what you look for on Reddit?
I try to. And that said, the scammers are still there, right? And so it is very important to buy from people who have good, positive feedback, and who've had positive transactions with other members. Because in my view, if you decide this is something you're interested in, you feel like you want to do it on a more regular basis, your reputation is everything. Reputation is the only thing that you can say, look at me, I'm a good buyer or I'm a good seller. So your reputation, you need to think about that first and foremost. If you're ever buying and selling, you want to, be respectful to people, respond in a timely manner, send your, payment promptly. Don't leave people hanging. Don't have bad experiences with people, because the more positive transactions you get, the easier it will be for you to buy and sell in the future as well. So always keep that in the back of your mind.
Yeah, that's what puts me off Facebook Marketplace for that type of thing, because there's a lot of people like time wasters on there, isn't it? I mean, I've only sold furniture on there. I don't think I've sold a watch on there, and there's a lot of fake. I don't know if they clean that up, but my God, the fakes on Facebook Marketplace were absolutely wild at one time.
And that's why it's so important that I think whatever you do it in a community where you can have those kinds of reference checks, right? So that's the problem with Facebook Marketplace is it's not a community. So you can't ask anybody about somebody who's selling something.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's like Craigslist, I guess,
Right.
It's you use an adverts platform, isn't it? Where there's no one to sort of help you.
Like a sales bulletin board or whatever. Well, let's move on to the big one. Abrasic Timer is kind of kicked it off. So eBay rule. We're going to talk about eBay now, but he is right. eBay selling rules are changing in the US. I don't know if it's in the same in the UK, but they're actually going to bank the cash until after the delivery, so you won't get paid out straight away. Whereas you used to get, if you sold something, you would get paid the next day, even if it was in transit to the seller. So this is interesting, but yeah, leads us nicely into, if nobody knows that, that's definitely happening on the 4th of February.
Yeah, in the UK, eBay have already cancelled their fees, so everything's free to list now. I don't know why that happened. It happened about the beginning of the month. So it's free to list anything now, apart from vehicles, I believe. So watches up to the value of 10,000 you can get away with. And then you only have to pay if you want to promote your listing. So you pay between 8.5% and 12% if you want to promote it, which means it'll appear at the top of the list if someone does a search for whatever watch you're listing.
Are they trying to squeeze out Chrono 24? Are they trying to really squeeze out other players in the market then for watch? I mean this is across the board, isn't it? It's not just watches, is it? It's across the board.
I'm not sure, but you get your money if you post, as long as you post immediately, you post the next day. I've had my money. I've sold 30 watches over the past 6 months, all for about £80, small microbrand ones. And then I'm currently selling a lot of vintage Omegas, and between £300 and £600. And I immediately, anything over £1,500 gets the eBay authentication. So that you send that to an authenticator. I sold one for £2,600, and I posted it to an authenticator. So you don't post it to the person, you send it to an authenticator who then checks it, verifies it. I don't know whether they actually open the case back, but they then supply a credit card style card with the details of the watch, the serial number, what kind of watch it is, and the authentication number on this card, saying it's been authenticated. And then they pay for courier to the buyer. So that is free apparently. So
make their money. I wonder how they.
I've no idea.
Trying to take somebody on, aren't they? I think.
I've no idea.
Well,
But you get your money. You get your money as soon as it's been delivered to the person.
Yeah.
So,
Well, I think from my perspective, of course, that's just in the UK. Here in the US, they're still charging 15% on watches.
really,
Which is outrageous. And
Wow.
so that's why, if we're jumping over to selling, I would never, ever, as long as they're charging 15%, I would never sell on eBay. Because it's just too much. You can sell on Chrono. I know eBay has more eyeballs, but I'm not going to pay 15%. I'm just not on a $5,000.
right.
Well, it's a cascade. I actually worked this out before, because I sold my Rolex on eBay, and it was a cascading sale. So how it worked out was essentially I've got I won't show the transaction here, but essentially how it worked out was for the first $1,000. So it sold for $9,560. So for the first 1,000, I got charged 15%. And then from the 1,000 to 7,500, I got charged 6.5%. And then on the over 7,500, I got charged 3%, which means that the total fees came to $634.70, which I worked out as an average of 6.63%. So it's actually close to Chrono, but
Really?
yeah. So it's actually close to Chrono in that respect, but it is. I sell a lot. I sell mostly on eBay, and that first 1,000, that's where you're getting the hit. But the thing is, like, where else do you sell? Like, you made this point before the show, didn't you, Colby? Like, where else do you sell watches that are few hundreds?
Yeah, exactly. No, that's if I had a watch to sell for $200, I wouldn't. Nobody's going to go to Chrono 24 for a $200 watch. So I just put that on eBay.
Yeah, I mean, one of the interesting rules that Von Krul points out is on eBay he sets a higher price but accepts lower offers. This allows him to look at potential buyers' accounts and decide if they look okay before saying yes. That's a great way to go about it.
That's what I do. Yeah, I never make money on a. I've never flipped a watch for more than what I bought for it. Even that last G-Shock, which I could have sold for more, that 5,000R that I bought for a review, I sold that for what I paid for it, which was $200. I didn't. People were charging like double that, so I sold it quick. But I just don't like. It just makes me feel funny flipping a watch like that for more money. But it's funny. Does everybody sell on eBay? Steve, have you sold on eBay? Yeah.
Yeah, but it's not my first stop. I would rather sell it on a watch forum and not have to pay the seller fees. But that said, like, especially if you're in the vintage world, like, there is some stuff that's so specialized, you're just not going to sell it on a watch forum, or maybe you will sell it, but it might take 2 years. Whereas I can get those eyeballs on it around the world from eBay. And yes, I am paying that extra, 5, 6, 10, 15%, but there's a better chance I'm selling it quicker. So it's not typically my default place to go. But that said, I love buying off of there. I buy off there all the time because, the stuff that pops up, you just won't see it anywhere else. And there is always a chance to get a good deal. I know it's harder and harder to find these days, but like if you're really looking at it day in and day out, and you can be quick, sometimes you can snag some really good deals on there. So
yeah, that's the funny thing with eBay, wasn't it, when it first started? Because when I was growing up, we always used to watch Antiques Roadshow, and they'd be there like, oh, this vase, there's only like 10 in the world. And then when eBay came around, you'd be like, oh, I'm going to sell my vase, and there's only 10 in the world. The other 10 would be on eBay. Like, it basically almost destroyed the majority of antique, the antique value, didn't they? Of a lot of things where you would think, like, I remember my granddad had a Bell's whiskey, but it was a bell. It was like a porcelain bell that the whiskey came in, like a special edition. It was, he always thought that it was quite valuable, and I ended up going on eBay and they were going for like £2 or something. This was when I was in the UK.
Really?
So one of my favorite searches on eBay is just to type in like vintage Casio or vintage Seiko, and you've got like all of the weird like Casios from the 90s from Japan that were like, with like a temperature laser on them and all sorts of weird stuff. I always find that really, really quirky and cool. But
I think you're right, Steve. I mean, there's eyeballs from around the world on your watches, and I've done searches for vintage Omegas, and I've ended up buying from Argentina, and all around the world, and because the prices have been so much better than the UK or anywhere else in Europe. You can find, that's a beauty of eBay, I find, is especially with buying, is that you can search around the world and the prices will be up and down for various different watches, and you can get some really good bargains from different countries.
Yeah, I like
it. Japan is right up there, really high prices. And you look around and there'll be really low prices, which is good.
Yeah, that's why I'm much more comfortable buying from eBay than selling on eBay. I'm hoping that the experiment that they're doing in the UK helps them to realize that having the best experience for sellers will then translate to having a great experience for the buyers. And don't just make everything great for the buyers and then have the sellers get the shaft.
Yeah. Well, let's pivot from eBay for a bit, unless we get any more questions in it. But Colby, do you want to kick us off with Chrono 24? Because we both sell on Chrono 24, don't we? Or we have done.
Yeah, Chrono 24 is great. They charge 6.5%. They're based in Belgium, I believe, or no, they're based in Germany, aren't they? But they have then an escrow account based out of Belgium or something like that. But they're not. They're based in Europe, and so I like them because they're reputable. I like the escrow account. I think it's a good interface. I like how they enable messaging with the buyers. And I think they're good for higher priced watches, and you tend to get more serious watch enthusiasts go to Chrono 24 than just eBay. So you don't get as many. Well, you'll always still get low balls, but I don't get nearly as many low balls on Chrono 24 as I used to get on eBay. Oh, would you take $1,000 less than you're asking?
Yeah.
Oh, sure, okay.
eBay's wild for that, isn't it? It's certain brands as well. There's certain brands that when I list them, people just absolutely take the piss with it. Like Zelos is one, Phoebus is another one. People just like messaging you like absolutely. I've told, in fact, this week I was selling something. And I just told the guy, please do not contact me anymore about this watch. Because I'm not, he was going up in like $5 increments from like what you said, like half. He offered me half, and then it was like, oh well, what about this? But on eBay you can block them, can't you? So I ended up blocking it because it was ridiculous. But
you get people offering you a fifth of the price, and it's sort of like, do you seriously think I'm going to accept that?
There is a good feature that eBay has where you can set a minimum price. So if they make you an offer below a certain threshold, then it'll just get auto declined. So I do appreciate that tool.
Yeah, it doesn't stop people messaging you though, does it? It stops them doing the buy. Because I use that, and you can go in, can't you, on the left hand side and see all the ones that it's rejected. But oftentimes what you'll see is that people, when they do that buy, we've gone back to eBay and I said we're moving on from it. But when you do that buy, so what if anybody's not following us in the audience? So say you've got a watch for $1,000. What Colby's saying is you can say, hey, buy it now or best offer. So $1,000, you might have a best offer at $800, but you'll say, hey, let me decide if anybody offers between 1,000 and 800, but auto reject it if it's 700 or less. So it will auto reject it, so you don't have to respond to all of those. But also, you can have an auto accept, can't you? So you can say, I've listed it for 1,000, but auto accept it if it's 900 to 800 or something, which I quite like that feature. So always do a best offer on eBay. I would say, as a seller, I shouldn't say this, but I would always do a best offer on on eBay. But you can also see people when they've been auto rejected, they just keep trying, don't they? They just go up in increments, and you'll sometimes see down the side, oh, they keep going up they're trying to find that level.
Yeah.
Chronocrate says, I used to be able to reference my Instagram and YouTube accounts for my eBay listings so I can show people videos of the watch and get more photos and videos. I think that really helps sell my watches. Only recently they don't allow me to. Can you do that on Chrono 24? Can you do that on Chrono 24 in any way? Leave a link to a YouTube account or Instagram feed where
they don't let you post links like that at all. Of course, you post your photos to the website, but then when you're messaging somebody, they actually don't allow any internet link to go through their messenger app. It'll get asterisked out. And even anything that looks like it might be a link will get asterisked out. Sometimes it's frustrating.
Yeah. Same with eBay. I had someone contact me and said, could I send them a video? I couldn't on the eBay messaging. I said, if you want to send me your email address, do that. And I got my listing taken down for saying, send me your email address. So they took the whole listing down. So, you got to watch what you say on things like eBay. No personal sort of numbers or emails exchange. I just wondered about Chrono 24 because I've never really dealt on Chrono 24.
Yeah, you can't put links in it. I should say, by the way, that Chrono 24, like 3 years ago, advertised on the podcast. I should probably disclose that, but I don't have any other relationship with them other than that. But yeah, they do. I think they do block it, and I think both eBay and Chrono 24 have improved a lot, haven't they, in the last 5 years? eBay with its authentication service, and it's become more friendly to watch sellers. And I think Chrono started off being very arrogant, I feel like, at the start, where they were like, it's got to go into escrow. It's got to be this certain way. The fees, I think, were a little bit higher. You've got to do it certain ways. But now I feel like it's a lot friendlier. And I also love on Chrono the graph that they show you for what's sold. I think that's really good for both sellers and buyers, so you could kind of, I guess, time the market in that respect. And but they still do, Colby. Did they still do that thing where you have to list it for 90 days? Is it
your listing automatically expires after 90 days. But as far as I know, there's not like an exclusivity with them, so they don't make you have it on their platform exclusively.
They used to do that. They used to do it where you couldn't, if you basically had to prove it was stolen or it was damaged for them to take it down. You couldn't sell anywhere else. It was part of the terms and conditions. Was it had to be listed for 90 days. You couldn't end it early unless you basically had to sell it there. So I don't know whether that sounds like that might have changed. I don't know.
Yeah, I have taken down listings that I've sold I don't know, maybe I shouldn't say this on the internet, but no, I'm pretty sure they're okay with it, because when I go to delete a listing, a little thing will pop up and it'll be like, why are you deleting this? And one of the options is I want to keep it. Another one is I've sold it elsewhere.
Yeah, they never used to do that. They used to charge you the fee. They would charge you the 6.5%. Maybe that's something that they've changed recently. But yeah, if you took it down, or if they felt you'd sold it somewhere else, they would charge you the fee back in the day, I guess.
Really? Wow.
Yeah.
I do have an alternative I'd like to mention. Like one other platform is, what's it called? I just drew a blank.
Well, I've got two, actually.
Grailzee.
Right.
Grailzee. That's a really good platform that I've also sold on. If you list a watch, it's all auction. You list it for auction as you can put a reserve on a watch for $100 fee. If you don't want to reserve, it's a $50 fee, and that's the only thing you as the seller pay, is either the $100 or $50 fee. Now the buyer has to pay a $250 fee on top of whatever he buys it for you from.
Oh.
But it's really good. It uses an authentication service, and I've had nothing but good things to say about Grailsy. So I would throw that out there too. Obviously, it's not going to be as popular as eBay or Chrono24, but I think it's really well run.
So, I mean, this. Okay, so essentially, this is like the old auction style where there's a buyer's premium. Essentially, they pay a flat fee in this respect. This is the first time I've ever heard of this site.
Yeah, and then if your watch doesn't sell in the initial like 5 to 7 day auction period, it goes to the live auctions, and people can just go on there and make an offer on it.
Okay,
right.
So you don't set a buy it now. You basically, do you set like a start price, or
you set a reserve price? So if you pay so it's $50 to sell, and then if you want to set a reserve price, it's $50 on top of that, which I always do.
Okay.
Right.
Yeah.
Interesting.
Yeah. Steve, have you heard of this before?
I have not.
No?
I've never used it.
Yeah. Okay. Well, this is really good. We're not affiliated with this, so obviously use at your own risk. But I mean, I haven't got anything really to sell at the moment. But yeah, there's two other things that I'll mention very quickly because I think I might be the only one that's ever bought or sold off them. The first one is Timex have a rebrand or reborn website where you can buy so that people send watches in, old watches, and they'll get a voucher, I think, a discount voucher. There's all sorts of awful watches on there. Like I'll show you what it is. But sometimes there's a gem. Timex let me just pull it up here. Timex Rewound, it's called. So essentially this, and then you go on and you say you either recycle your watch and send it in for either a discount or a voucher, or you can shop on here, and there's occasionally some really quirky old watches on here. So you see you've got like Timex Expedition for $35. Look, Skagen. So people just send in any old crap, but it's good for like hunting. It's good for kind of finding the occasional decent.
Okay.
It's got some old Casios on there. I bought a really rare watch off here that I ended up flipping it on eBay. But yeah, and they're really good prices. So that's one. And then the other one is, I think I might be the only one that's ever sold on Whatnot. Is that right? Has anybody ever bought off Whatnot?
Mm-hmm.
Okay, so Whatnot is essentially I do Whatnot. Miguel over at SoCal Watch Reviews has done it. Watch Chris probably does it more than anyone. I've been burnt buying on there, but that's by the by. Essentially, Whatnot it was originally designed for selling like baseball cards and Funko Pops and things like that. And essentially, it's a live stream. It's like QVC. You're on your phone and you're like holding up the watch. Who'll give me whatever for this? And if you're like, I'll start the bidding. It's a live auction essentially. And you sell it. Okay. So I've sold quite a few on there. Now, Whatnot, the pros and cons of it are, as a buyer, the pros are that you'll sometimes find a gem, but there's a lot of people selling it's all sorts of watches. So it's like fashion watches, and a lot of people who've got a lot of hordes of fashion watches, or there's a lot of vintage, like when you go into an antique store and there's like a box of vintage watches and they're in various states of disrepair. A lot of those people, you'll see there's just boxes of watches, and it's like, have a look at the box, and people are like, pull that one out. So it's interesting to find like rare, interesting watches, and there's always auctions running. The disadvantage with it, I found, is that from a seller's point of view, it's like a car auction. So what you're doing is you're essentially, you will never get anywhere close, I don't think, to what you would get off eBay, but the advantage is you can sell a lot in bulk. So if you've got like 20 or 30 watches you just want to get rid of, and you're not really too precious about what they go for, you can sell. The fees are low. The fees are really low. They sort out the postage for you. The postage is based on weight. They charge the buyer, and the buyer pays through there. So that's a really good way of getting rid of a lot of watches, or it's basically collectibles. You can't start selling stuff around your house. I've done a couple of charity.
Eric Grimes says Whatnot sucks. Lots of crap.
This and you do that's the disadvantage as a buyer, is that sometimes you have to sit through an hour auction to kind of find the gems. I have done that where I bought a couple of watches where they were done, they were broken, and then I bought one where he said it wasn't broken, and I got it and it was, and I'd not actually. There's a way of you clipping that part of the auction, and I didn't do that, so that's one way to back it up, so you actually get a verbal of what they said, because I don't think you can't go back and rewatch unless they've changed it. I don't think you can go back and rewatch a past auction. So yeah, it's an interesting one. It's mainly if you want to sell a lot of watches and you're not too precious on the price. It's not for high value watches. I mean, I know Watch Chris does quite a few auctions on there, so follow him if you want some bargains on some of the ones that you've seen on his site. So there goes.
Robert Coleman mentioned something. He says, not to bang on about it, but is there such a demand for low price vintage watches? Why aren't there any actual stores to buy from? And that actually brings me on to another question that Colby was talking about. Have we ever bought or sold from actual brick and mortar stores? And do we trust, what do we think to actually selling to maybe, I mean, in the UK, Colby mentioned independent stores, and as far as independent stores are concerned in the UK, it's either ADs or grey market stores. That's what you get. And I don't know what people think. Have we actually bought or sold to any sort of?
There's a vintage watch shop. So I live in Florida, and Colby, you probably know Winter Park. Winter Park has a few vintage that sell vintage watches, but there's one that they have some decent vintage watches in there, but the prices are absolutely outrageous, like obscene, the prices that they want for these watches. And it's a shame, because they basically go in there and they're like like a home clearance store. You would go in there and sell like jewelry from somebody who's passed away. They have a lot of Rolex in there. The Rolex are all right price, but they do have some like rare gems, like those, Steve, we were obsessing about those two-tone tags from the 80s, those the divers, and they had some of those in there. They have some vintage Seikos, but they're asking like top dollar for them. Have you ever been in that store, Colby? Do you know which one I'm talking about? It has like outside with a.
I thought you were going to say Orlando Watch Company, but I didn't know there was.
No, I mean, I bought vintage from Orlando Watch Company. Yeah, they're reasonably priced. I bought a vintage X33 from there. I've bought a new Seiko from Orlando, which company's great. They do sell vintage as well, and I think their prices are fair, but it's high-end vintage. They don't sell. But he has some really quirky ones in there, doesn't he? He has some really Bulliver tuning forks. He has in there. He has that weird Speedmaster that was the digital, but it was like rectangular, and it had like the two. Yeah, he's got some really, because he's a proper watch enthusiast, isn't he? He curates he's got some really interesting vintage ones. But
I mean, the problem with buying. Oh, I'm sorry. Go ahead, Steve.
No, it's okay. Go ahead.
Oh, well, I was going to say the problem with buying from brick and mortar stores is that they have overhead. They have lots of overhead costs. And so that, so they have to keep the lights on, and they have to pay the rent for the building, and they have to pay employees' salaries. And so all of my watches, you can find professional dealers who are vetted and respected in the community who operate mostly through Facebook or mostly online. And over the years, I've gotten to know dealers, and they sell watches with OEM warranties, and they're all legit. It's all above board. I mean, I think they buy them from authorized dealers, but it's not gray market also. And so usually you can get 20 to 30% off. And that's why I would suggest for the average person, if you really look in some of those Facebook groups, that's where there are a lot of professional dealers in those groups.
Right.
Go on, Steve. You were going to chime in there.
Yeah. So I have a comment based off of what Colby just said, but I also want to touch on the vintage watch shop thing as well. So I'm not a part of really any Facebook groups for buying and selling, but I use my own method to especially if I'm trying to buy a new watch and I want to understand what is the what is most likely the minimum amount I can pay for a new watch that has an AD warranty on it? And that's where I think, going back for a moment, Chrono 24 is really good, because you can look at the dealers who are selling new watches there, and you can get usually a pretty good sense of like what the bottom of the market is realistically for a new watch with an AD warranty. As Colby mentioned, there are dealers out there who, you know, they're kind of, it's not gray market, but they're operating in a gray area where they are procuring, they're almost like a middleman to these you know, brick and mortar shops, that they have watches that the brick and mortar shop has a watch they want to sell. They want to sell it. They can sell it with a warranty on it, but they can't necessarily sell it for that price if you walk into the shop. And so I think that's where something like Chrono 24 or some of these Facebook shops Facebook groups can come into play. I guess the comment I just want to make about why don't we see more brick and mortar shops, Colby mentioned it before about the high overhead, right? And, you know, if you're a shop like that, how do you compare with someone who's just selling on the internet and they're operating it out of a room in their house? The other thing is, you know, there's typically not really any warranty involved, or maybe it's a very limited warranty with a vintage watch. It's probably not going to be waterproof. You know, it may not have the same timekeeping that a new watch would have. And so, you know, the types of buyers for those things are very, very niche. It's very limited. And you have to have someone who's like really actively seeking out a vintage watch. And I just don't think the market is just big enough to really support that, with the exception of a few scenarios. And obviously you mentioned Orlando, places that have like a really big demographic and like a lot of real affluent people, Miami, New York, Orlando, LA, these sort of places, you will see that, but there's just not, you know, if you said Omaha, Nebraska, is there really a market there? I don't think there is. I'm in Austin, Texas, and there really isn't that sort of clientele of people who are looking for a dedicated watch shop that sells vintage watches. So I think it's just a very niche and limited market, and a very niche and limited clientele. And I think that's a big part of it.
Yeah, it's almost if you've got a vintage watch, if you're selling vintage watches, you almost have to have a watchmaker actually there, don't you, in case there's anything.
Absolutely. Yeah.
And old watches, and you know, like for me, the most important person in my watch world is the watchmaker that I work with, because stuff is always breaking. And like I've always got things that need service or need repair. And so like, if you want to get in the vintage watch world, it's good to know someone who can repair watches, unless you do it yourself. Probably just the same as if you're getting into vintage cars, right? Like you would either need to know how to really work on some of this stuff yourself, or be really good friends with a mechanic. And it's no different.
Yeah, I mean, in the UK, the grey market dealers will all have watchmakers, and they have access to, if not in-house. And they will give you warranties. They'll give you, they'll be able to get the watch service beforehand, but you're going to pay for it. You're going to pay top dollar for it. I mean, like Sam said, some of the vintage places, you go to Burlington Arcade, it's through the roof. It's absolutely through the roof.
Yeah, we were there.
And I think Chrono 24 is a great reference point for finding out prices for the real world prices for used watches. I think it's a great benchmark to find out, you know, the reference point for searching a watch. If you want to sell, searching what the sort of median prices for a watch to sell for.
We were in Burlington Arcade in October, and I went in to ask about a Cartier tank that they had in the window for my wife, and it was, like you said, it was like £13,000 for
ridiculous.
And that they've got a cool shop that's got in the window. They've got every birth year
watches,
birth year Rolexes in the window, and they've actually put the year underneath it as well. So my 1980 was like a GMT, but yeah, I imagine the rent in Burlington Arcade is enough to put most people off. But they sell like Richard Mille there and stuff, don't they? There's a shop that sells.
Yeah, I mean, I looked at that shop, the birthday watches, now 1973, and I think a Submariner, a Redline Submariner, was some like £37,000. And it was like, really? You know, it's like.
Sam, I wanted to add one more place, and this is for buying or selling. I would say join a watch Discord group. There are several of them out there. I'm actually a member of the Random Rob watch Discord group. It's great. That I would say that's like the Ferrari of buying and selling. Partly because there's a modest membership fee even to join the Discord. So it's a wonderful community, a trusted community. I've never heard of anybody, getting screwed out of money. Moderators will enforce things. And I know there are several of them out there. I know that Bruce Williams has a Discord. I've never been a part of that, but I'm sure it's great.
He is a watch dealer, though, isn't he? That is his job.
Oh, is that right? Okay.
Yeah. I think he's always. I think he worked for. That's right, isn't it, Steve? Bruce Williams has actually always been a watch dealer.
I think so. Yeah.
Yeah.
But I know he has a Discord for his channel where you can join, and there's a marketplace where you can buy and sell.
Yeah,
so
that's interesting.
Yeah, I'm a member of an Irish watch group. It's called Irish Red Bar, and they've got a Discord, and people buy and sell in there. Like you say, there's a buy and sell tab in there, and quite a couple of other Discords as well. Yeah, so that's a good point, Colby. Yeah, if you in a online Discord group and the people that you trust, you can often get some good bargains.
Yeah, I actually shut down my Facebook group for the channel because of that, because people kept trying to list stuff on there, and I just couldn't find a way of like policing it, or because if you're an ordinary Facebook group owner like I was, it's a zero-sum game, isn't it? Like if the risk is all on you. If you start allowing people to sell on there, you don't make any money off the transaction, but you assume all of the risk almost, don't you? Because people just start blaming you for, and that's why I had that district store for a bit, and I did sell a little bit on there. I might spin it back up, but other people could sell on it, and I got more people asking to sell on there than interested in buying stuff off there. So I've just wound that down for a little bit just to see what I want to do with it. But yeah, as I've just reverted to Chrono24 and eBay for sure. So awesome. So I guess the final word then is we didn't talk about Felonious Monk. Thank you very much for the very generous super chat. Thank you very much. One thing I think one last thing is any tips and tricks for packaging your watch up and making sure it gets there. Yeah, go on, Colby.
Yeah, so I gotta give a shout out to pirateship.com. Pirateship.com. I would tell people, number one thing when you're shipping, never pay retail shipping rates. Okay, you can go to pirateship.com and it's all above board, it's all legitimate, but you just get discounted rates. It's like 50 to sometimes 75% off. You can get full insurance. You can have a package signed for. You can send things international, but there's really should be no reason to pay retail rates, at least through UPS or USPS.
Yeah, I was. You told me about this last week, didn't you? And I'm not. I can't even comprehend how much I would have saved. Because I've sell a lot. I only have a UPS here, so I do have to sell a lot for UPS, and I do go on their online thing or the click and ship on USPS. And I've always, for ages, I thought, wow, these prices are absolutely wild that they charge for stuff. That's why I stopped shipping stuff to the UK, really, because it's so expensive. But yeah.
Just a quick shout out to Thelonious Monk. You're welcome for the membership, my friend, and anybody else for the price of a bag of potato chips. For a month. You can become a member. You can become a member.
Let me post the link there. $1.99 or $1.99, or if you're feeling generous, I also have a $2.99 a month package as well. So
what does that get you, Sam?
It gets access to members only videos. I'll start doing them again. I was doing a weekly update, which I'll start doing again. Also, it's just nice. It's just a nice thing to do. I appreciate it very much.
Yeah,
And you get a little badge
channel.
as well. You get little badges next to you, which is me pulling funny faces. You get badges you can put in. And also, I could see as well. You get a little. As Thelonious Monk put, you get this little circle thing as well to show that you're a member and you like to support the channel. So, thank you very much. Awesome. Okay, so yeah, packaging up. I would just say if it's high value. I don't know if anybody else does this, but where you double package it, where you put a box, put the label on the box.
Right. Okay.
Box. I think Chrono actually used to suggest that you did that. Oh, Eric's gifted some memberships as well. Thank you so much. Thanks, Eric. Very much.
Oh, brilliant, Eric.
Yeah, thank you very much.
Oh, nice one.
Yeah, thank you.
And they are CClem44, Anonymous, Emilio, Fizz Watch Owners Enthusiast Group, and the Watch Hangout.
Do you know?
Thank you very much, Eric. Thank you very much, Eric Grimes.
I think Anonymous might not be he'll be the only one that isn't happy about having to be a channel member. He's like my first ever subscriber, and it's very much appreciated. Awesome. Okay, guys. Well, anything else? Any other tips we didn't go over in the final minutes here? I think we covered pretty much a lot of the
Yeah,
Steve, you
pretty
got
much everything.
I was just going to say, since you're talking about shipping, I think you should always add signature confirmation on any package that you send. Some people who buy things don't like it when you include it on there because they live in a secure place, but I would rather them have to deal with a little bit of hassle and know that they get the watch versus it just gets dropped on their door and there's always a chance that someone can run off with it. So, if you're sending something that expensive in the mail, signature confirmation is a must. It's usually not that expensive. And then I think you could also consider insurance if you're really worried about it as well.
Absolutely,
can be expensive, but if it gives you peace of mind, and if there's a chance that the package gets lost, at least you have some recourse there. So those are the only two things I would mention.
I've done this
absolutely,
before,
Steve. Yeah,
I used to because Christopher Ward, obviously they just they send a watch and then have to send it back, but one actually went missing on the way back out of the box. And then what I started doing, if it's high value, I did this with my Rolex, and I did it with quite a couple of other things where because I've got the overhead camera to do my filming. I filmed several times actually wrapping the package up, showing them that the watch is in there, showing them that the package is in there, shell tape nuts, and then I've got like a watch brand stickers that people send me for when they're sending in a review, and I'll stick a sticker over where the cut would be on the box, the seam of the box, and then sellotape over it. And I'll say to the person, hey, I'll post it on YouTube as unlisted. I'll say, hey, this is a video of me packaging the watch up. These are stickers. If these stickers are cut, somebody's obviously been in the package since I've done. So I've done that. I do that on every high value one where I'll double wrap it, but also I'll actually film wrapping it up and then put a sticker over so they know I haven't tampered with it afterwards, or if customs or anyone's actually accessed the box, I'll do that as well. So.
But yes, the signed for postage is a must, I think, and insuring it is an added bonus as well, definitely.
I'll add one final one. Great suggestion, Steve. Clean your watch before you sell it.
Yes.
Just clean it, just as a courtesy to the buyer. Take a toothbrush, put some mild detergent on it, and just, it takes 5 minutes. And the buyer will really appreciate it. Yeah,
that's the good thing with actually Chrono 24, which we didn't go over, which is everyone else around the world bumps up the condition of the watch, whereas the Japanese sellers go down a notch. They're usually like, oh yeah, no, it's been worn this, and then you get it and it's like pristine. So the only problem with buying from Japanese sellers is that sometimes if they haven't got the links, the bracelets are usually like very small. I've done that before where I've had to source links, but other than that, I mean, usually the Japanese sellers, the watches are in a significantly better condition than the way that they list them. So whereas often other sellers around the world, sometimes you get me like, oh, that's not in very good condition. Awesome. Well, a big thanks to the panel. Thank you for joining me. Hope everyone enjoyed it. Thank you for all of the super chats and memberships, and we'll see you next time on Casual Watch Talk Live.
Give us a thumbs up, guys.
Yeah.
Take care.
Bye.